continue.
Yeah.
Kia ora koutou. Welcome to Positioning Procurement for the Future. We'll start with the MB Karakia. Tawhia tō mana kia mao, kia maia. Ka huri taku aro ki te pai ka hurangi. Ke rera te oranga moko. Ma mahi tahi ka ora ka pūwai. A mātou mahi katoa ka pono ka tika. Tihe mori ora. Kia ora.
Kia ora ko, ina mana, ina reo, ina karanga, mahe o te wā, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Talofa lava, whakalofa lahi atu, malo alele, bula whanaka, kia orana, malo ni. Welcome everyone to Positioning Procurement for the Future. Ko ruapehu te monga, ko whanganui te awa, ko wanaka te roto, no whanganui o, ko Sean Barnes taku ingoa. I'm Sean Barnes from the Arkina Foundation, and it's an absolute honour to be the MC for this event, and a warm welcome to everyone attending. Firstly, some housekeeping and session information just before we get started. We are recording this session, which you would have noted, and questions can be submitted during the presentation in the chat, and we'll bring these to the end of the session today. We may not have time for all of them, so make them really good questions. And please submit them all, as we will be looking to send out some more information in the near future. So let's get started. Apart from the obvious MC role that I've taken here introducing the agenda and our speakers, a few people may be asking who Sean is and why am I here? Hey, Sean, are you working for the government? I'm here for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I think procurement is cool. And yes, that may get a few odd looks from friends, but I stand by that statement. Procurement is cool. And like many on this call, I love working as a professional to make a difference for our land, Papatūānuku, and for our people, He Tangata. Procurement is a powerful tool to make a difference, and we need it to be that more than ever. Secondly, I'm someone who has strongly advocated for change in government procurement, and it's exciting to be invited here to be part of that change. Government is the first purchaser, and government practice and procurement influences the market. The ripple is seen everywhere. And when you're part of a procurement profession and you meet the people who are deeply passionate about their role and their profession, you can feel the opportunity we have. So we as the procurement team and across government and beyond government know that things need to be better. And today is about that change. So it's pretty exciting to be here. So just to outline the session today, we have a panel of 3 speakers who are adorning the screen right now, and we'll be exploring the exciting program of work that is about shaping procurement for the future. We'll cover why it's important and the opportunity it presents for everyone on this call and the organisations you work for. I'll introduce each speaker in turn, but I'll start with the man in the middle here, Lawrence Pidcock, who's the General Manager of New Zealand Government Procurement, for some opening remarks. Lawrence took up the leadership of New Zealand Government Procurement in April this year, joining after being in the CPO seat at the Ministry of Education. And Lawrence is a career procurement professional with broad experience in leadership, operations, policy, and consultative procurement roles in both the UK and New Zealand. I'll pass over to you, Lawrence.
Well, thank you, Sean. Tēnā koutou katoa ko Lawrence Pidcock toku ingu. So thanks, Sean. Hello, everybody. I'm Lawrence Pidcock, the GM Government Procurement. And until about 4 minutes ago, I wasn't nervous about this, but now I am. It feels like there's lots of people watching. So look, I'm going to try and keep to my short amount of time that I've got for opening remarks. But basically, we're talking today about positioning procurement for the future. So what could New Zealand government procurement look like? How good could it be? And actually, today's a bit of a call to action. So hopefully there's a lot of procurement practitioners on the call, and you're looking for a little bit of what could the future look like? What's my part in that? And how could we work together to get to the future? It's as Sean kind of talked to in the opening remarks, we're at a pivotal point, I think, in terms of a tipping point of what government procurement could be and where it could go. We've got a whole bunch of social inequalities, sustainable environmental pressures coming upon us. We've got some significant economic issues, and also we've got to overlay COVID on top of that and COVID response. So since starting in April, ministers have been asking some really tough questions from day one about how well is government procurement performing? What could it look like in the future? How good could it be? And then what could that great government procurement look like? And today, I suppose, is a bit of a glimpse of what we think that could look like, and the beginning of starting a conversation and moving into, okay, now let's start working together and being really great. Look, the other bit that I really want to kind of signal, and it's kind of awkward that I've gone first in a way, because yes, MB is the functional lead for government procurement, but the message needs to come across loud and clear, and hopefully you'll hear it today, that this can't be about NZGB, it can't be about New Zealand government procurement sitting in MB. Yep, we've got a functional lead role to kind of facilitate, drive along, push this change. But actually, for the way for this to work is for everybody who's a practitioner to be working together towards a common goal and working hard towards that. 6.5 months ago, I was the CPO in education, probably happily throwing some mark at NZGP about the things that weren't being done. Now I'm in the tent, and there's some brilliant people here, amazing people doing fantastic work, but 100 people sat in MB cannot change everything. It's the 2,000-3,000 practitioners that need to be making the change. So hopefully today you'll hear what you can do personally, as well as within your agency, and then as part of the kind of broader system of government procurement. That's the wrap.
Excellent. It's certainly one of those points in time, Lawrence, I completely agree. Our next speaker is Mark Richards, Divisional Manager in the Commercial Division at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Mark has held senior leadership positions in a range of multinational corporations and government organisations. He's widely recognised as a champion of procurement and loves taking these opportunities to deliver innovation and improved outcomes. His contribution has been recognised by both CIPS and the World Commerce and Contracting Organisation, awarding him fellowship status. So he's a double fellow. And those who know Mark will know he's also a good fellow. And I've always enjoyed his wisdom and insight. So welcome, Mark, and we look forward to hearing more about where we've come from and why this moment is really important.
Thank you, Sean. Very kind words. Always a pleasure working with you. Kia ora tātou. Ko Manguita tau mana, ko Waitemata te awa, ko Bark Jane Gifford te waka, no Tamaki ahau. Ko Richards tōku whānau, ko Mark tōku ingoa. Welcome all. The question is why? Why Procurement 2.0? The answer is simple. Each year, government procurement is a vehicle for transforming about 51 billion of NZ public money into valuable outcomes. To put it in perspective, that's $100,000 every minute, every hour of every day, 365 days a year. It's a lot of money, and that spend provides a huge opportunity for us to achieve great outcomes for New Zealand and impact this country and its people in a positive and meaningful way. In procurement, we can influence this to achieve outcomes government is seeking while delivering the broader outcomes that are actually core to the whole concept of public value. So why now? Well, for many years, government procurement was really simply about having outputs and widgets, buying stuff, frequently with a focus on lowest price only as the criteria, and it was frankly less about procurement than it was just about purchasing stuff. Some 12 years ago, we launched a government procurement reform program to change that. That started by setting standards and expectations. It created new levels of professionalism. It grew the profession. A measure of what that means is 12 years ago, just 12 years ago, we didn't have a single tier 3 procurement role in government. When we assembled and first put our senior managers in a room to form an advisory group, there wasn't a single woman in the room. Seems unbelievable these days when you think how things have changed. Today, we actually have a large number of excellent chief procurement officers in many agencies, and probably at least half of whom are women. We have large numbers of trained professionals at our disposal to do work, and we're really, what Procurement 2.0 is about is setting that next stage for the next big leap forward. At the moment, and today, and for the foreseeable future, outcomes and public value are really at the core of our procurement. We're seeing challenges from all sorts of areas: climate change, sustainability, diversity. We've got to drive health and safety in the supply chain, which I know is a huge challenge that concerns me, and I'm sure some of the rest of you. And we also have all these challenges to address. And we also need, therefore, to introduce a lot of innovation and become very good at taking calculated risks. All in all, it really is quite an immense challenge for us. We've got new technologies shaping the way we do and what we do. They're changing expectations around transparency in terms of our customers, our stakeholders. Really, the game is changing very, very rapidly. And as technology continues to increase, I think we're going to see the procurement profession having to focus increasingly on relationships. Process and procedure will be taken over and ultimately will be done by software and machines and systems. So if that is our game, then frankly, we will become irrelevant in the world. So to do this and do it successfully, we need genuine working relationships. We need to make government an attractive customer to work with. We need early market engagement. We need solid understanding of market capabilities. And we need to embrace, as a profession, new approaches beyond the traditional RFP with a mandated minimum time in the market. We need streamlined sourcing, we need agility, we need co-creation, we need simplified contracting, and most of all, supplier relationships that are underpinned by solid supplier relational management. If we're not in that game, we're not in the game at all. And fair to say, we already have teams and agencies that are pushing boundaries and delivering these new approaches. We have a lot of new approaches being driven through the social sector, which is actually feeding across into the rest of us, particularly as regards commissioning outcomes. We have agencies that are driving true innovation and change in terms of infrastructure and construction, even being recognised at UN level for doing this, which is pretty impressive from a small country at the bottom end of the world. But it has to be said, we also have teams who are driving traditional sourcing-focused approaches. We still see too much rolling over of contracts just as a matter of course because it's easy or because we start too late. We see too many people still working with the same suppliers time and again, even when those suppliers have a track record of under-delivery and cost overruns. And we've got to get serious about that and really cut loose and make some changes. I'd have to say, while we still have a pretty solid profession, and it's good to see that it's now gender balanced, it does not fully reflect the face of the New Zealand population. And I think, particularly with regards to Maori and Pacifica people in senior roles, that's a challenge we have to meet. So Procurement 2.0, as Lawrence said, it's about changing the system, changing the way we think. We all need to work together to drive this change. And the question is, well, where does it start? Well, it will start with us. We don't have to wait for our CEOs to ask for this. We can't afford to wait for MB to tell us all the details. We need to start now. Procurement 2.0 really is our license to make those changes. And for you and me, this starts with what we do after this webinar ends. We don't need anybody's permission to do this. We don't need anybody's permission to introduce things like Agile or Procurement in a Day or SRM. We don't need permission to actually change our processes and make government a lot easier to do business with it. We have it. So my challenge to everybody there who's watching in today is to consider, once this is over, spend a bit of time today thinking about what's next. What am I going to do tomorrow to start on this journey? And then the challenge is tomorrow, just do it.
Kia ora, Mark. That's a good wero for everyone, a good challenge. And it's a great way to lead into what, the next area that we're going to explore. So our third speaker today is Sarah Blackie. Sarah's Managing Director of ESPI, a New Zealand-owned commercial consultancy, and Program Director with New Zealand Government Procurement. She's recently taken on the role that leads the Procurement 2.0, we like calling it 2.0, strategy and program implementation, following a wealth of local and international experience leading teams and projects in commercial relationships, strategy and procurement. Sarah fits the bill on this panel as another person who brings fresh thinking and who is really passionate about realising the potential of procurement. So over to you, Sarah, to talk more about the program itself.
Thank you, Sean. Right, tēnā koutou katoa, ko Sarah Blackie tōku ingoa. Sean's already done my introduction, so I don't need to go into more detail about who I am, but I'm really proud to be here today and to be I'm doing the mahi as Program Director for Procurement 2.0. I'm excited because I'm really passionate, like many of you will be, about the success of New Zealand Inc. You know, for our people, our communities, our businesses, and I think our procurement community has a large role to play in that. So 2.0 is shaping up to be really big and exciting. There are 3 focus areas in it, and I'll allow Lawrence to cover those a little bit later on. But what I'd like to do today is share with you a little bit about how we're designing the 2.0 program. So there is a vision for where we need to get to, and we're in the process of breaking down that and articulating, you know, how best to get there. As Lawrence has already pointed out, and Mark has so eloquently, while NZGP is leading the program work, there's a huge desire to do this with the procurement community to enable you, not to do it to you. Some projects will be led by discrete parts of the system, and others will require collaborative problem solving, co-design, etc. There's a lot of great work already underway to achieve the outcomes we need to get to. And so, you know, for example, there's the SRM program, there's the great work that's taking place between MSD and Oranga Tamariki with the social sector commissioning. There's the broader outcomes group. There's a lot going on already. So as has already been noted, Procurement 2.0 is a system-wide effort. It will challenge all of us to think how we can better work with others across the government system, almost like a think global and act local message there. There will be opportunities for everyone to contribute to and benefit from the program. An example of this is, it's not about what we do, it's also about how we do things. Mark's already talked about agile procurement, relationships over process, doing things better for our customers and our stakeholders, our suppliers. Also thinking about how we designed the Treaty of Waitangi into how we go about our work. And many of you are already doing this, as Mark's highlighted, but there are also some other things we need to do to build on that to help shape the future of government procurement in New Zealand. We need to be clear on the outcomes, but we also need to be real about the challenges that we face in getting there and the tensions that play out across the system. You know, an example of that within the program is how we might collaborate and co-design and get everyone together doing those things while making progress in a timely fashion. And that's something I think about quite a lot. So as already outlined, we've commenced work to turn the vision for Procurement 2.0 into a strategy and a program plan. And we intend to share version 1 of that with you next year. There'll be a 24-month program and a 6-month program initially within that, with more clarity. Some projects will have a clear path, and others will be slightly messy, or what we sometimes call wicked problems, where we need the collaboration and the co-design, and a better understanding of the challenges that we're actually trying to solve. Okay, so as you're hearing this, some of you may be thinking, yes, I'm energized, I'm optimistic about what we can achieve together. Some people may be feeling a little cynical about really how much we can achieve. And others will be thinking, sounds good on paper, but how will this actually work? And I've been in this role for about 16 days now, and I want to reassure you that I've had all 3 emotions. All 3 are legitimate and absolutely valid. So these changes won't be easy, but as Lawrence and Mark have both said already, don't be afraid to think about how you might like to contribute to the program, whether formally or informally. Think about how you might do some things better today and tomorrow. And don't be afraid to challenge us and challenge each other about how we're doing the things better together. Thanks, me.
Thanks, Ben.
Ora Sarah. Yeah, some more great challenges. We've actually had a request for your speech too, Mark. So you might have to copyright that one. It's fantastic. Right, so Lawrence will take us through the what in the program and the what next. So I'll hand it back to you, Lawrence.
Thanks, Sean, and thanks to Sarah and Mark. It's fantastic to have you here, and I am genuinely excited about this. Like, I took this job in April knowing that my wife was pregnant and that the last thing I needed was a new job, but I could not turn it down because the opportunity is so exciting. And the very first meeting I had, sorry, I'm going off script, before I even started was with Minister Nash, who's Minister for Economic Development, and he basically said, what could procurement look like, Lawrence? What does 2030 look like? How good could you be? How do you get to the point that actually procurement is using its genuine lever all the way through the expenditure cycle, from policy investment to government's expectations and policy outcomes? And he said to me, look, we'll clear the path. I've got Minister Robertson happy. Whatever you need, from a governance point of view, ministers are going to line up behind and help you to get there. And that's the opportunity. Like, we now have absolutely the best time and opportunity to take this function to a place where it probably isn't in any other jurisdiction. I think, having spoken to literally hundreds, probably thousands of people in the last 6 months about their procurement role, their kind of part in this big system, there's a huge appetite for change. There's people everywhere that are frustrated, I believe, that want to know what to do, want to work better together, just don't quite know how to do it, and don't see that vision that they can kind of line up behind. So this is about us creating and having a vision and lining up behind it. But look, one thing I wanted to also point out, a thing I heard a few years back in a leadership course was, nobody's coming. Like, there is nobody coming to save the day. There's no massive salvation. It's not going to be MB. It's not going to be anybody else. And don't get me wrong, we're all going to work and we're all going to work together. But actually, it's all of our jobs to lead this change and to take our part forward, because there's no silver bullet. There's no knight on a kind of big white horse coming to make it easy for us. We've got to do this now. So please remember, there's nobody coming. So what have we done? As Sarah said, we've spoken to a lot of people. We've kind of got this vision of where we can get to, and I think it's progressive, it's strong, and it is bold. But really now it's, how do we fill in the details underneath? So the 2.0 vision is broken down, and there was a cabinet paper that's been through and approved, and it kind of breaks the program down into 3 parts. You've got data and transparency, which is has to be part of our future. You know, how do we make sure we've got systems and intelligence that's telling the story of where that expenditure is going and whether it is or isn't delivering to policy expectations and outcomes. And we've got a lot of disparate systems, from Excel spreadsheets to some very expensive on-premise and SaaS type stuff. So how do we start to scrape information out of it, use systems to, automate the simple and start to simplify the complex and get insights and data back to inform what we're doing. So there's a big program of work, data and transparency. For me, probably the most challenging, but probably the most important one, is how we work together as one. So how do we get this kind of collective change happening, get everybody lined up in a common direction? We don't go to the market duplication. We don't talk lies and duplication. We're not bidding against each other. We're actually working as a single government, and that's hard. Like, as a from a CPO role where I've got DCE, CE saying spend this money, get this outcome, I know it's not the principal objective of everybody in agencies. So how do we get to that working together, collaborative? And I think we can be the glue across government to make that happen. And then the third part is, what does it look like from a capability and practice point of view? So unlocking value is all about, to Mark's points around the different ways that we can work, whether it's agile, whether it's stepping more into SRM, whether it's strategic needs analysis or business outcomes, whether it's design thinking or changing the way that we work as a culture and the value proposition of procurement. There's a lot of work to be done in that area as well. So there's 3 big meaty programs that work that MB's not going to solve on their own, and we as a system are going to solve, and we will be as good as ministers think and we think we can be. And procurement will be the most exciting job in town. 2030, people are going to be actually going to school saying, I want to be a procurement person. Maybe that's our challenge. So look, and I'm not going to say much more about what can I do. Mark, I think, covered it off great. Challenge yourself with what's on your desk today. Think about doing the right thing rather than doing it right. So, actually, does this make sense? Is that the thing to do? Is it just writing another RFP and flicking it out and never talking to anyone about it? Or is there a different, smarter, alternative way? Or could I collaborate and motivate my organization that that's the right thing to do? And now I feel like I need a really strong finish line, but I haven't got it.
But I suggest just do it.
Well, it is just do it. Yeah, I mean that is it. You know, it's just do it and just do it together. That's
unfortunately that's trademarked. Just do it, but that's all right.
Oh.
We can say it. There's some really great recurring themes here, isn't there? First of all, I love this demonstrating the value of procurement and the people that work in procurement through our practice, so people get to see what this is really about, and of course working together and leaning in and being part of it. So yeah, it's exciting times. Right, we've got some questions, so we'll move into Q&A time. So we've got some that have come through. I'll just start with one for you, Lawrence. What does this all mean in terms of centralizing procurement, which is an obvious kind of thing that might be popping through people's minds at the moment? And does this mean this is something that's being looked at?
Yeah, great question, Sean. And it's been the elephant in the room, and actually just the question I've been asked, I think probably once or twice every week that I've been here. You know,
Right.
So what's the answer? Is it, Lawrence, to create the Ministry of Works or the Ministry of Procurement to pull everything together? And ministers have asked me that as well. My response, and I hold to it, is no. There's a kind of pendulum of centralization and decentralization, and we're, you know, slightly to the left of the centre, I think, towards decentralization. And maybe this programme is going to pull us slightly more towards the centre, because it's motivating agencies, it's motivating buyers to work together as one. But it's not structural in my mind. This isn't about creating entities or changing where people live in terms of reporting lines. It's about how do we motivate the system and individual procurement people to work together collectively as one, and to kind of line up behind this longer term vision of how excellent, you know, the procurement being an excellent and value adding sustainable function.
So more how we work as opposed to some formal structure.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Got one for you, Sarah. 16 whole days in the job, which was noted. Any thoughts on quick wins to signal this to industry? Like how do we bring the market along with this change, and what are your thoughts around that?
Oh, thanks for asking that big question, Sean.
I didn't ask it. I'm just a messenger, so it's all right.
It is a great question, and one that I need help with, because just like we've been talking about, it's not up to me to determine what goes into this plan. I'll certainly help shape it with the team or with everyone in the system, but I genuinely am interested in hearing from people about what those quick wins would be, because it's the people who are doing the day-to-day that can see those things, and perhaps they're feeling like it's difficult, or that people aren't listening to them, or whatever. But I think, it's very much about how we're working as much as what we do. But yes, I genuinely, it's about people contributing their ideas for the first 6 months.
I mean, just to, if I may, Sean, just to add on, I think it's about just opening the door to a conversation. So what's staggered me, in a way, 6 months in this role, GM government procurement, I reckon 30 organisations have been in touch, supplier organisations, saying, how do I get to play with government? Like 30 in 6 months is ludicrous. Why didn't I get 30 calls in my first hour? And for me, that's a reflection of government procurement. Yeah, it's doors shut, don't come talk to me, I'm not talking to you. So as much as anything, it's about just opening the door. Go have those conversations, talk to those lobby groups, those industry groups that are kind of throwing muck at us. You know, if you read it in Reseller News, pick up the phone and have a phone call with whoever it is. And I think there's a bit of fear around it. I think there's a bit of, well, it's not what we do in procurement. We can't represent the business, so we kind of sit behind our desks and behind this glass wall. We're not going to solve this ourselves. Actually, everything we do is just leveraging markets. If we don't understand and can't communicate and help them grow, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and opening up those conversations, the people who are at the market, you know, the
And
edge of the market.
That for me is another thing of what can I do tomorrow, is go talk to some suppliers. You know, if you're looking after a category, if you've got something coming up in a couple of months, big contract you need to get in place, or a big outcome you need to see, just go talk to some suppliers. Yeah, because they want to hear from you.
Yeah, totally. I guess on that, and bring you in, Mark, as well. You know, what do you think suppliers are looking for?
I think most of them are just looking for, the simple question, how can I do business with you guys? Our standard approaches through GETS are quite scary. We still have extremely big tenders. If you look at some of the tenders that go out for, what are in terms of a $51 billion spend quite small, $250,000 or something. The amount of paperwork involved and the questions we ask is just unbelievable. And often we've done business with these companies multiple times and everything is like starting again. I am concerned out there that I think we're doing a lot of work in MFAT around Pacifica-owned businesses and smaller businesses, but those people really struggle. And I think designing processes that enable them to respond in a good manner. This is one I'm a big fan of, Procurement in a Day, where we get to interview them and they get to show us their genuine selves rather than what we normally see, which is a very comprehensively written response by a consultant working for someone. So I think there's things we can do to make it easier. But if you just looked at some of the stuff we put out there and then ask yourself, if I was on the other end with Christmas coming up, would I want to respond to this? And frankly, the answer is no, I don't have the bandwidth or the time, and I can't be bothered, and I don't think they want to do business with me. And I think we all know that in our own hearts. And so, and that's one of the reasons why I think some of this action can happen pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's actually not good, because that goes back to that, do the right thing rather than doing the thing that's right.
Yeah.
Keep testing yourselves.
I'd even take that one step further, because often, doing the thing that's right is defined by us anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody told me that I've got to run a great big plan and a great big procurement just because it's 100K.
Yeah.
That is my call, and it's embedded in history. So we've actually got to change the way the organisation thinks.
Yeah. I guess related to that, there's also a question here around what protections do we need to put in place to create this space for procurement people to feel like they've got a safe space to actually, be creative and maybe take a bit more risk than currently.
Yeah,
there's a nice juicy question, isn't it? So,
it is. Yeah. And I don't mind having a first stab if you guys want to jump in. But I mean, for me, that goes a lot back to a lot of what Mark's saying is we made those kind of rules and we kind of promulgate that fear ourselves. So we've got government procurement rules, which in my mind, having come from the old OJU European stipulative requirements, are just so broad and flexible. And even through, fourth iteration, they still are really. You've got a hell of a lot of flexibility in there to really do things differently. And yet our context and our traditional, the way we've been trained and the way that we generally operate is a very similar looking process each time. So I think there's a bit of just looking back at ourselves, and then there's a bit of having the courage to talk to our CEs, DCEs, senior managers, budget holders about actually we can do things differently here. And using those examples and having those little wins and then case studying them and just gaining the confidence. I've been throwing around this idea about how do we get procurement to the point that a CE is saying to you, I cannot do without my procurement function. And I ask all of you that are in senior roles and get a chance to talk to your CE, do they feel that way? And if not, why not? And what could you do? And I think a lot of that's just going to be about the way we're perceived and the way we propose that we're kind of selling our value proposition.
I'll add to that because I think it's a great point and a great question. And as a procurement community, we almost have to ask the question, what's it going to take for people to feel safe to experiment and try new ways of doing things? So is it capability building? Is it about people sharing how they've done things in the system? Because there's a real opportunity to do more of that, I think. Yeah. And so what can we do as a system, as a community, to build up everyone else around us?
And it kind of goes to my Minister Nash comment about they're clearing the path in their mind. So if there's silly things we're doing and we want some air cover, actually that probably is something that MB can help with some other senior leaders, is actually how do we get that exec level and even ministerial level support to allow that flexibility and agility and innovation, different ways of working and thinking.
Yeah, I think also that bear in mind that there's a lot of pressure on all of our operations these days. Budgets, although they're big, they are constrained. We don't all have money to Africa, etc. If you're proposing simplification of business processes and systems, my experience has been you never run into an SLT member who says, don't do that, I want it more complicated. So again, the challenge isn't actually our CEs and SLT. They want this and they're looking for it. Where your challenges will often come will be further down in the organisation, often tier 4, 5. a treacle layer where people don't like change. So effectively, once you have the discussions and you get your SLT on board, you're away laughing. You know, you can do anything you want. All you need is control over the policy and guidance. And if you've got a tier 3 leader in your business, you have that already, because the SLT will just go with the flow with it. So, you know, design things that are simpler, make it easier for your internal customers and stakeholders. And believe me, they'll come on board.
We've got a couple of questions here around, you know, making space for Te Treaty and Te Ao Māori and supplier diversity and SMEs as well, I guess, in terms of participating in this. What are your thoughts around moving forward with that participation and how that might happen?
Looks like they're looking at me for a start. So look, my first response on this is it's hard. So making space is hard. And again, Minister Nash, first breath is like, how do we buy roads much cheaper, Lawrence? Like, we could do this for 25% of the cost, and we probably need to aggregate and get some stronger tier 1s. Next breath was, how do we de-aggregate, and how do we give every SME, a Māori organisation in New Zealand a chance at government funds? For me, this is about how do we stop doing the repetitive churn stuff, actually put relationships in place, manage those relationships with some competitive tension, to give ourselves space to then think about, what does our market need to look like in 5-10 years? How are we going to grow that market? Actually, how do we grow SMEs to become medium and large entities? And that's the stuff that, you know, that's the smart stuff that procurement needs to be doing in 5-10 years, not churning through RFPs and tenders. Because to Mark's point, I genuinely believe the sourcing aspect will become an algorithm. You know, lawyers and sourcing people, you're on a pretty short horizon if you think that you're going to carry on doing the stuff you're doing. But if you can start thinking about market engagement, strategic need, and how you work and build markets, and then how you maintain contention and performance with those providers, that's the stuff that's cool, and that's the stuff that we need to be doing. And that's where you'll get your CEs saying, I could not do without my procurement team.
Again, you come back to that whole process of simplification. Most of our businesses, if you look at the amount of effort required in running even quite a small tender, is actually quite huge. And because we're often dealing with casual buyers and contract managers who are not procurement, in our ministry, we have a rotational process. We're often dealing with new people. They don't know what to do, so they lean on us for administrative support, for putting things on gets, for writing contracts and doing this. And frankly, we've got to get out of that business. You know, we all know that we add value at the extremes. We add it at the beginning of the process and we add it at the end. So it's about planning and setting up, and it's about relational management. We do not add anything in sourcing. So as a simple first step, if you just look at what your teams are doing in terms of sourcing and the amount of admin, and are we running gets, and should somebody else be doing that, like, you know, TAs and other teams. So we have to make that space. And I know it isn't easy. I know there will be pushback, and I spend a lot of my time warning SLT members in our business that you will get pushback about what we're doing, and you will get nasty words. And they say, no, keep going, we need this. But if we don't push back on that sourcing space and get out of it, then frankly, we'll never get the time to allocate to do these things. And particularly if we're going to do more work with Māori and Pacifica businesses, that's about engagement. You don't do that with emails or gets notices. We are going to have to get out there on the ground in a structured way that's appropriate for our business and create those relationships. And so the challenge once again is on us, that every time you find your team doing lots of sourcing work or admin stuff, ask yourself, is this necessary, and figure out how to get out of it. And if you have to, just stop and push it back on the internal customers. But, you know, we've got to get serious about this. And if we don't do it, we will forever be having this discussion.
Related to that, I guess, in building upon that, you know, it might be a person's priority, but how do we make this an agency's priority and engage that leadership? And there's comments such as risk aversion, bringing others along who aren't on board with this and potentially aren't on this call, and giving procurement that seat at the top table. I guess, Sarah, Lawrence, thoughts?
Would you like to start? Yeah, well,
no,
I'll start.
You start.
I mean, I get a bit sick of hearing procurement at the top table thing. You know, it's actually about providing a service to others. So I think and very much, and I was, thinking about the system, we do need to think about the system constraints and the authorising environment in which we operate and what are the barriers there. And I think, there's a couple of things that we could do as a program at program governance level to help, but that's just a program. I think there's lots of opportunities for, it's almost like what we were talking about earlier, demonstrating the value of procurement. What's the brand of procurement? How can we uplift that? And gosh, there's so much we could do. I've got lots of ideas. Everyone on this call probably have lots of ideas. Yeah, that's my contribution.
Yeah, I think if you're waiting to sort of get a seat at the top table, you'll probably wait an awful long time. The reality is that the top table is pretty busy and doing stuff. One of my managers earlier in the year came out with a statement. She said, I don't actually want a seat at the top table. I want a seat at the planning table. You know who you are. And I've always thought that was an incredibly wise comment. So again, it isn't about getting a seat or getting access to your CE. It's about communicating internally with the right people, what is happening here and what this is about. And it's about engaging with particularly the sort of the unit managers, the tier 4 and 5 managers across the business, finding out what's on their plates, getting engaged early with them, because all you have to do is have a couple of early engagements on things that are quite important. And people start walking around saying, those procurement people, they added value. And that is actually where the invitations come from. But if you're waiting for the invitation, it will not come because they don't know what we can do. And they will end up calling us and saying, I've got a tender that's got to go on Gets next week. Can you help me? And that'll be your engagement. So the question is, how do you get right up the front and engaged in those planning processes? And that will come with the way you engage. If you want to model, every team, in my view, should have some form of internal customer engagement model, just a list of who the key players are, how often you're contacting them. You don't have to have big formal meetings, but it can be as simple as having a regular process where you walk around the building and every month you make sure you touch base with every one of the 20 or 30 key people in your area and have a discussion with them and say, what's coming up? What sort of stuff might I be able to help you with? What's bugging you and causing you to lose sleep at night? Now, believe me, you do that for a couple of months, you will see change. And you will also be so busy that frankly, you won't have time to do all the sourcing stuff because they'll all be seeking your assistance on the planning stuff.
Yeah, another great example of that is embedding yourself or being the team into the financial budgeting process. There's little things you can do. You can embed yourself into existing processes rather than try and create new ones, which frustrate people. Yeah.
So how can I help you, isn't it? That phrase could get well used, which is great. There's a couple of questions. I'm going to slightly reframe them. We've had the comment, this sounds like good procurement. This sounds like strategic procurement, which I think is absolutely true. and I guess, what has kind of been in the way of doing this in the past, but I think I might reframe that as like, what will be different? What does different look like in a year? Like, what's the sorts of things that we might start to see here?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Really good question. And I guess, look, that's my 16-day-old friend to my right's problem to some degree is how do we turn this vision into a kind of actionable program of work? But that said, we definitely made some promises to ministers about what this will look like. 12 months is actually a relatively short horizon, but the 24-month stuff's got some quite tangible deliverables in it. And I do want to keep thinking kind of 2030 as well. But look, we have to have agencies starting to collaborate and work together on, in my mind, talking to procurement people is kind of government category management. So how do we coalesce common need and engage with the market in a one government approach wherever possible? We'll have SRM, government SRMs, will be through a few pilots and hopefully we'll be starting to roll it out a bit more ubiquitous with a number of pilots across. And this isn't led from MD, this is led from agencies across the patch. We'll have a real clear picture of what capability looks like, what that value proposition looks like, and how we'll start to build personnel, build our internal resources, our functional resources towards that new capability. 12 months, we're not going to be there, but we're going to have, I think, real clarity of a common direction and we're working towards, and we will have a few kind of markers in place in terms of delivery. And then the other big bit is that systems data insight stuff. And I'm not gonna spoil the work that's coming along really well in terms of saying anything now, but there's some pretty mature and really exciting thinking happening around how we can help agencies to coalesce information, get data and share data so that we can make kind of evidence-based decisions and give evidence, and provide insight as opposed to being a bit done and generally working with spreadsheets. And the only other thing is I'd say it does sound like good procurement, but imagine if you could get really good strategic procurement happening with every single procurement person in every agency in New Zealand government. You're going to be a heck of a lot better than any other government in the world, I'd say. And probably, having spoken to a dozen or so global multinationals, better than most of them as well.
I think it is sort of at the next level down in terms of agency. If you're looking at MFAT in a year's time, what I'd like to think that you would see that our tenders will be a lot simpler. You would see that they're very lean, they're fit for purpose. We go to detail where we need it, but by and large, it's a lot simpler. You'll see more use of panel contracts. You will probably see procurement in a day featuring in at least half of our procurements, so that the whole system will be a lot easier to deal with. You will probably see that our procurement people will be virtually unengaged in low risk, low value procurement, and we will have upskilled our casual buyers across the business to do that work and enable us to particularly focus on the high risk and high value, medium risk stuff as well. So that's the challenge I think that my team's facing at the moment. And we've already started work approaching that, how we're going to do it. But I think you'll see some tangible things like that. But if in a year's time you're still seeing the same things out there, and the external view that people have of your business is still the same tenders, the same old way of going out there, then that probably is a sign that more needs to happen.
I mean, people are at the heart of this, aren't they? I mean, we've got a lot of people on the call, and procurement's a people process. So what's the thinking around people and the skills that people need, and starting to transfer that knowledge and skills across government? Some agencies just don't have the resource and things like that. So I'm seeing lots of smiling and nodding and
what is procurement? Procurement is simply about business relationships. At the simplest level, we act as a matchmaker to match up customers with suppliers and help people get outcomes. So if we're not in the relationship gig, we're not really in procurement at all. If you just want to do process, then as Lawrence points out, you're going to be out of work. You'll be an admin person within the next 10 or 20 years, and particularly as our agencies start to improve and increase the systems they've got available to work with us. So, the challenge is for us all to get into relational management, and it doesn't matter if it's SRM or it's internal relationship, the fundamentals are the same. You identify who's important to you, you work with them, you make yourself useful, you build relationships, and you work on them. If they're not important to you, then you manage them appropriately. But frankly, if you're not into using the old positioning diagrams and standard SRM practice now, highly recommend you get into it. They're really easy tools. And I'm always surprised at how few people I meet use those. I'd actually go so far as to say I've built my whole career on that. From back in the 90s, engaging with SLT. You talk to the SLT about supplier positioning and supplier preferencing. I tell you what, they get it. And the question is always, hey, how do I actually work with these people who are in that strategic critical box? And so, we've got to get good at that stuff, and we've just got to start doing it.
What about across government? So how are procurement people going to engage with each other and those types of things? What are your thoughts on that? Yeah.
Great question. Can I talk to this?
Yes.
So capability, I mean, gosh, everyone I imagine has an opinion on this, and that's great actually. That's better that way than the other. I guess there's sort of the what of capability, so what skills, knowledge, and mindsets we need to change and improve. That's one thing. And then to your second question, Sean, absolutely, it's the how we're doing that. So it's not necessarily a training course or mentoring within an agency. There's all sorts of things that could be done to build that capability. Meetups, using technology to connect people. I'd love to have a Slack channel for all of us, but it's probably not possible. But things like that, where we could just connect people, and as I was saying earlier, work with each other to build each other up. Because as you were saying earlier, there are some agencies and entities, local government perhaps, that don't have many people working in procurement. So this program plan needs to be very user-centric essentially, and make sure we are reflecting as much as possible the different needs of those people in the system.
And building on that, it's all very easy for me to sit here and tell you, yeah, do this, that, and the other, coming from the background of being a tier 3 leader and actually having influence in my organisation. Let us not forget that we have many procurement people out there, they're working at tier 4 and 5 and trying to lead change. That is not easy. And so if you're in that position and you're wanting to make something happen, we're fortunate that we do have a large number of really competent practitioners out there. Not everyone gets on with everybody, and I'm fully aware that, there's quite a few people out there who don't like me, so that's fine. But, you'll find amongst our lexicon of people, there are other good people. So find people you can talk to. And, it's not a case of mentoring. It's about meeting with a peer in a larger organisation and sharing time. And I can certainly say that my tier 3 colleagues across government, every single one of them is incredibly sharing. And I know I've jacked up a few of my juniors to do a bit of mentoring or talking to some senior practitioners in other places. They're always very open. So, you must feel free to reach out, because I know from personal experience that it can be a very lonely gig when you're way down the food chain, you've got a tiny team of just 2 or 3 of you, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've got all this plus broader outcomes. What do I do now? Where do I find help? Well, find help and inspiration where it is, and talk to other people out there.
And we've got some great examples of that happening, as we've talked about previously. Topical area procurement groups and the grad program, and some really great examples of how that knowledge transfer. Always love that concept of leaving knowledge behind. So whenever people are interacting, there's something left behind. Last one. We'll have to wrap up shortly, but there's a great question. Does that mean we throw out the procurement rule book? I've heard people would like to burn it, shred it, all sorts of stuff. But I guess more seriously, how does this fit with the government procurement rules? And I'll leave you this parting thought with you, Lawrence, and then we'll wrap. Yeah.
I can't remember what the exact wording that we landed on the cabinet paper was, but we gave ourselves some wiggle room definitely to reconsider or consider the government procurement rules. My view right now is we're not going to throw anything away, but they have, in my mind, kind of grown and grown and grown from where they were, which was actually quite a nice principles-based position back with the first edition. The other frustration I have with them is they're pretty much all about sourcing. So it's just about that middle bit, which actually long-term I don't think is where the value of our function lives. So how do we make them work, or give ourselves a playbook that works more for the breadth of the whole kind of procurement cycle? So it's a bit of a deflection, and the answer is probably we've got opportunity to look at them. And I don't have too much more to add on it at the moment. I do think they give us almost as much flexibility as we like, but at the same time we've dove down a little bit deep, maybe in a few areas that have therefore ended up getting a bit prescriptive.
Yeah, I can sort of talk to a bit of that, because I actually was part of the group that wrote the things originally. They represented a big change on what went before, but what they are is actually an expression of commitments we've made in international trade agreements, particularly the World Trade Organization's government procurement agreement. So therefore, by complying with them, we're actually meeting our treaty commitments. Having said that, as Lawrence pointed out, these things have assumed a level of importance that, it's almost like in some cases they're the prime vehicle. And I still find myself having to say to people, no, you don't run, a seminar on the rules. Our customers don't want the rules, they don't need them. And I think this is something that's quite important to realise. The rules are none of our agency's business. They are our business. They set out frameworks and policies that we need to follow. But too often we take them into the business and we're talking about all these things and the exemptions and bits and bobs. So, the way we've got things structured, they're important, they're in the background. The principles and the charter form part of our policy, but then we make sure that the guidance and the guidelines will be compliant and we manage accordingly. But, you know, if you're in procurement, you should never be talking to your customers about the rules. Maybe you should be talking about some exemptions to policy or something, but they are incredibly flexible, let's be honest. And, you know, agencies and places that are running huge tenders because it's 100,000, you know, that's not right. And the rules don't actually tell us what to do in that detail. They say advertise it openly. That could be 3 lines on a scrappy piece of paper, PDF'd and slapped on gets. That would still qualify as an open tender. And if that's appropriate for what you're doing, that's fine. But I think these things have assumed a sort of a size and a complexity in our minds that really isn't warranted. And if you look through them, they're still a pretty flexible thing. I accept the fact that the 100K thing is a bone of contention, and we talk about that a lot. And I think there's still work to be done on that. But beyond that, you know, frankly, I've never found the rules have stopped me from doing anything that needs to be done for the business. And I think it's how we approach them and how we sell them internally that's important.
Yeah, it's a great
Well, we've
point.
got plenty of further to do something to them. Sorry, Lawrence.
Just quickly to build on Mark's point there, like if your GM, DCE, chief exec ever hears you talk about the procurement rules, all you're ever going to be is the risk probity police that stop things happening and make sure that we're safe. And actually, that's just a tiny little bit of what we've got to do. We've all got to be smart enough to do that whilst actually bringing value to our organizations.
Cool. We have to wrap. we could go on for a wee while, I'm sure. Parting comments. I'll just get one from each of you. What's the call to action to everyone here, or something to share?
Yeah, so many. Look, I think my one thing probably is, please don't think of this as an MB thing. Think of this as an entire system, a coalition of procurement people trying to make procurement brilliant.
I would say, if you're looking for a place to start, focus on making it simple and making it easier for people to do business with us. And that includes reaching out to talk to suppliers.
Great. And from a program perspective, I would say, and like I said earlier, there'll be formal parts to play, but there will also be lots of informal ways to contribute to it. So everyone will have a place in this program.
Yeah, we've had
I'll add one more, Sean. Talk to your customers internally. Get out there, walk about, talk to people, get engaged with people so that you start getting early connections.
Yeah. And we encourage everyone to bring this back as well as we move into this program. So there's lots of great stuff on the chat actually. So it's gone a bit crazy with some good stuff. So I'm sure there's some fantastic. Cool. So I guess the things that I've picked up today, firstly, it involves all of us, and there's been so much. You can see this is a profession where we can get into the practicalities very, very quickly, and there's lots and lots of practice around. So let's build upon that, and we have to work together, or this thing's going to be too big. Like that's a really clear message. So everyone who's out there today listening to this, we really encourage you to be part of this, and we can start now. So there's lots of things you can do now. So thank you. First of all, thank you for making the time, everyone, for joining us today. These are exciting times, and the scale of the task is not lost on any of us. And we've had a lot of interesting discussions thinking about today and what to say. And we hope you see the opportunity to be part of it. And there'll be more coming, basically. And on behalf of the panel, and thank you to everyone who made this event happen. I know we've juggled a few things along the way with tech and etc. And most of all, thank you for everyone out there for joining and being part of it. We'll now pass to Cole for closing karakia. Ngā mihi Cole, mā te wā.
Kia ora. MB closing karakia. Ka hiki te tapu, kia watea ai te ara. Kia tūruki ai te ao marama. Hui e takie. Kia ora.
Sorry.
Kia ora.